Avni Barman, thank you so much for coming on the 15-Minute Founder. If you couldn't tell, in 15 minutes, we're going to learn everything about you, which means we usually cut the fluff and we jump right in. So I'm going to ask you about morning routines because everyone likes morning routines. I heard you have a secret morning routine, but it's not so secret because it blew up and went viral on Twitter about something you do every day before you wake up. It takes less than 5 minutes, but it's changed your life. And I saw the results and I think it actually has changed your life. Spill the beans. What's the secret? What is this thing you did that took less than 5 minutes every morning that changed your life?
Yeah, it's actually ridiculous. Like, you would not expect this to be part of a morning routine, but literally before I get out of bed, I will literally grab my phone and I will cold message 2 people that I admire. And I have a template to go to, so I don't need a lot of brain energy to do it. And what will happen is by doing this as a daily habit every single day, by the end of the year, I've had hundreds, if not thousands of messages sent. And yeah, like most of them are ignored, but so many of them actually get responses to. And because I'm messaging such iconic people, these people actually have the ability to fully alter the trajectory of my life and career. And even just having one of that happen in a year is so impactful to your life. And because I do it so routinely, I've had this happen to me like 5+ times every year of my life. In the past 5 years that I've done this, it has gotten me like a 6-figure job when I graduated. It has gotten me like a self-made female billionaire to like fly me out to her office for a private meeting, literally no agenda, just like hang out with her. I've gone on like secret retreats sponsored by Nike. I've had like best friends made off cold messages. And these have all been like transformational experiences in my life.
Okay, I want to get a little more tactical here. So you have your phone next to your bed. You just grab it, and then are these tweets or XDMs or these emails or these IG DMs? And can you share the template too, or is that secret?
I can share the template, but you have to go find it in my bio.
Okay, fair.
But it's free, so you can grab it. And I will usually use the platform that the person that I'm messaging is most active on. So most of the time, how I find these people, they're people I'm already following on a certain social media platform. So let's say I'm following someone on Instagram because I really like their content there and I admire them for some reason. I will message them specifically on Instagram. And that holds true for LinkedIn or Twitter. I will sometimes, if I really, really want to reach someone, I will also spam them fully on all platforms and find their email. But I rarely do that because I do think that does slow you down. And part of the magic of this process is really playing the numbers game and like leaning on the power law that at some point you're going to hit a tipping point of so many messages, someone's going to miraculously respond. So I very rarely will go through the full effort of spamming and really trying to reach someone. And it's probably that someone's like extremely important to me and I'm trying to reach them for some very specific reason.
I love that. To me, I'm obsessed with this concept of asymmetric upside, where you do small things where there's little, if not any downside. Maybe it's just your time or rejection, which can hurt, but it's just time or rejection. And the upside is trips to meet a self-made billionaire or whatever it might be. Yeah. All the upside you get there. Now, I realize that we jump right into that, but I actually think it's worth zooming back here. A few years ago, you were in big tech, you quit your job, weren't really sure what to do, and now you have a media company that reaches hundreds of thousands of people, employees, multiple income streams, you now have an investment fund, and a community of hundreds of thousands of women across Instagram, TikTok, a newsletter, podcast, job board. I'm sure there's actually more things by now too. And something which I found really interesting about you was you have been, in your career so far, an engineer, a PM, a VC-backed software founder, and now content creator, media entrepreneur, and investor. So I need to ask here, can you walk me through each of those? Let's start with engineer. And what led to the switch each time to get to where you are right now?
Yeah. I mean, part of it is just me being absolutely neurotic, but I'll give a better answer than that. I think that the truth is we have this expectation that we're going to know what our dream job is the second we enroll in our first year of college, and that our purpose is going to be defined by our job and it's going to be crystal clear. And that could not be farther from the truth. And the thing that people often get stuck in is they'll spend so much time thinking about, okay, what do I want to do when I grow up? Like, how do I want to make money? Like, how do I want to actually have an impact on the world? And they just fully overthink it. But the truth is the only way to actually understand what you need to do is by doing it, try it. And the problem is if you go into anything half-assed, if you try anything kind of halfway, when you are doing it, you're not quite sure why you don't love it or not like it. And so it's very difficult to leave with high conviction as well. So what I've done in my life is every time I've done something, I've gone into it with like super high conviction. This is the greatest thing in the world. I'm going to put every ounce of energy into it. And what happens is I can basically rule it out very fast. And I can feel a lot of heavy closure and never have to return to it. And I think that's why in my career, which I've only like been in my career for like less than 5 years now, I've been able to get good at and try so many different roles to be able to get to this point right now where I feel like I'm living my dream life and have my dream job. But ironically, the only reason I was able to land on something like this was because I really gave it my best shot with everything else that I did before. And I promise you, being like a media entrepreneur, the literal last thing I would have expected for myself, literally growing up in the Bay Area, like going to USC, like it's just a very, honestly, very random for me, but it's definitely authentic.
I think not many people get, or they do get and they take action on this in the wrong way or don't take action. It's something you mentioned where you go all into something. I actually think it's extremely psychologically risky to do that, because if you truly tell yourself, hey, I'm going all in on this, and it fails, you can't point the finger anywhere else but yourself. So I think people sometimes hedge, or they like to preserve optionality to say, oh, I didn't give it my all, so if it didn't work, it's because I didn't fully try. And that's safe. It's really scary to dive into something, but I like what you said, where if you go all in with the mindset of this is amazing, I'm going to do it, you can actually get farther than a lot of people because they're not willing to take that next step. Now, another term I've heard you define or use, which I need to ask about, is this concept of the dream lazy girl job, and how actually maybe it's not as great as it sounds. So dream, but then also lazy, and then it's really not that great. Can you define what that term means? And then did you actually experience this and what it's like?
Yeah, I definitely had a lazy girl job. I was working a few hours a day, and it was in my dream job. Like I had worked towards being a product manager right out of graduation for almost 3 years at that point. I was very focused on it in college. And the irony is, sometimes when something on paper seems so good, in practice, in reality, it actually doesn't fit at all. And I realized that the money could be great. My coworkers were incredible. The culture of the company was amazing. I loved the team, the product, everything. But I wasn't able to have the impact on the world that I wanted to have. And day to day, I was like honestly emotionally struggling with the fact that I had spent, 20 plus years of my life in school becoming better at things that I cared about, like exploring my interests, being curious, only to end up in a space where on a day-to-day basis, I felt like I had no purpose to society and I was adding zero value. And the thing is, I think that was actually what was happening, because big companies are designed like this. If they leaned too heavy on an employee and this person became too valuable, the entire system would collapse, right? They have to create a system in place so that no one person is too valuable. So if they get sick or they go for another job or they leave or anything happens, this company worth billions of dollars is not going to just overnight shut down. So it's actually the design of the system that I didn't want to play in. It had nothing to do with the fact that the company or the job or anything wasn't incredible. And that's why I call it the dream lazy girl job, because it was the dream, but it wasn't my dream.
I want to go one level deeper here. You talked about how you felt like you weren't having an impact. And I think that for any person, there's many motivational or driving forces, but usually there's one of four main forces that motivates you or actually causes you to take action. Show me the incentive, I'll show you the outcome. Money, power, pleasure, or fame. So for the Avni of today, if you had to pick one, what is the main force? What are you most motivated by? Is it money, power, pleasure, or fame?
For me, it's definitely fame. You can be the richest person in the world and it means nothing if no one cares about you. Think about how many rich people exist whose name you don't even know. And if no one cares about them, they can't change anyone's mindset. They can't reach anyone. They can't influence you to make better decisions. And then they have no chance of actually making the world a better place. So for me, especially as someone who had the really epic 6-figure big tech job and felt like at that point when I was 21, I had all the money in the world, but it felt like it. I very much realized that I was extremely unmotivated by money, and I was way more motivated about my influence on the world and how I could make it a better place.
That's really good. And what I want to ask now is, you have taken the plunge. I guess that's a really interesting concept of certain businesses or systems once they reach a certain stage are designed to not have key person risks that they can't go down, which maybe caps people's potential. You then just started to go out on your own and start this media business or media empire or way to reach people at scale. So I would consider that entrepreneurial. And apparently I would guess a lot of people ask you, should I be an entrepreneur? What's your answer?
My answer is no, unless you would literally rather die than have a corporate job. And I know that sounds incredibly dramatic, but the truth is, starting a company, literally building something from nothing, is quite literally probably one of the hardest things you'll ever do. And the amount of sacrifices and compromises you're going to have to make is like so much that honestly, if you wouldn't rather die than have a corporate job, you're probably not going to make it. And if you're not going to make it, you're going to make a lot more money and live a much better life with a job that pays you an income. And you're probably going to be much, honestly, more well off at that point. So yeah, like I obviously have chosen entrepreneurship for me because that's the reality of my life. Like I would rather die than have a corporate job at this point, but that doesn't mean that I recommend it for everyone.
Something that I'm curious about here is from the outside in, you have this growing community of entrepreneurs, people who maybe are, something I've heard you say is maybe they're in their 9 to 5, but they're looking to escape to their 5 to 9. You have this massive growing organic social media audience. There's a newsletter, there's other content platforms, there's a fund now too. Can you actually just rewind and how did you actually start? Because it can sound so overwhelming with all of these things. And I'm guessing now that you have some support systems or systems or even team members or employees to actually help here. But what was the first thing you did when you set out? Did you start with the newsletter? Did you start by just creating content? How can someone start and maybe de-risk it if they're listening and saying, whoa, I kind of want to be like you and I kind of want to do this?
Yeah, I honestly love that you asked this question because I think a lot of people, and honestly, especially women, struggle with this. And like, how do I become an expert at something? Well, the way to become an expert at something is actually to start and just do it. I think in the beginning, I actually was doing literally everything because I had no idea what was going to stick, what would I be good at, what I would like, and being okay with failing, but failing fast. So it's less about doing things perfectly, and it's more about like getting exposure and iterating and failing and trying so many things that you learn something, anything, and then use that as a clue to get to the next step. So I actually started with TikTok. I think it was just like intuitive, like, okay, everyone's on TikTok, let's just like try to make some videos. And I actually in the beginning blew up pretty fast. Like I think within like my second day on TikTok, I went viral, which is definitely pretty rare, and kept like churning that content machine and didn't really focus that much on other platforms. I was like, hey, like I've got my signal, this is where it's working. And a few months in, basically felt like I hit a pretty big plateau and then started to explore different avenues like Instagram, like my newsletter, which immediately took off and started growing faster than TikTok ever did. And it's just interesting how I literally had to go full send on TikTok, try that in order to make the conclusion that actually primarily my audience doesn't live on TikTok. My audience of like super ambitious women who like maybe want to start a $1 billion company one day, like they're not doom scrolling on TikTok. So that was a very interesting learning. And I would say that for anyone trying to start in content, it's so much less about the right place to start, and it's so much more about where your audience is spending their time, and more likely where you as a content creator is spending most of your time, because you're most likely going to relate to other people like you.
Another question I have as you explain that is, from the outside in, sometimes you see creators or people with these media businesses that have lots of followers on different platforms. But I've always wondered, how does that transition to a business? It is a media business at the end of the day. Could you actually just break down how it works? Like how do you make money from, you have followers, you have a newsletter, but what are the ways that actually turns into a business? Or is it not a business and it's actually, hey, just posting content at the end of the day?
Yeah, it's totally a business. And I love that you asked this question because a lot of times people will come to me like, but you're just an influencer. Like, I don't get it. And I think the biggest difference between an influencer and like a media company is owned audience and like number of channels. So that's like how I like to look at it. So an influencer most likely has one dominant community on one channel that at most they can get a certain price for a brand deal that they do, and then probably don't have existing audiences on the other channel, or they're not big enough to be able to post that on that other channel, the same video, and then command double the price. But if you have multiple owned channels and you have big audiences on all of them, then for the same 30 minutes of work on one brand deal, you can command double the price. And then if you have 3 channels, you can command triple the price and quadruple. And that's really how you build a business, and you can scale much bigger than, like, let's say an influencer salary. The media business at the end of the day is like a century-old, not a novel concept. It's really selling one thing, which is attention. So as we see media evolve over the next decade, it's really going to be like where do people go and like find their entertainment. Like a long time ago, it was cable. Now it's social media. We'll see what's next. But at the end of the day, being able to adapt to the trends and like building out multiple channels is really important. And then being able to own your audience. And that is really where the newsletter comes into play, because these algorithms are changing so much and you can't control who you can reach and when you can reach them. And you can't really control your place on the app. Like, let's say I'm on Instagram would ban me tomorrow. So I don't really own my audience. And if I don't own my audience, like, how can I call myself a business?
I want to double click onto something you mentioned. Algorithms are changing. You might lose your audience overnight if an algorithm changes, and that has happened. But it sounds like you are very much doubling down. You're building your audiences. You're building audiences on separate platforms so the brand deals can multiply. Fast forward 10 years. What's your prediction for how this plays out? I would guess you're bullish because you're investing time here, but in 10 years, what is the power of social media? What is the power of creating content? And then how do you think you fit into that too?
Short form digital content's going to win at the end of the day. It's really captivating. It requires very low barrier to entry. Like, short attention spans are predominant now. Like, people are getting more and more impatient, especially with, apps like TikTok coming out and really increasing the like requirement of stimulation and dopamine that like we need on a day-to-day basis. So I think if there's like one skill to master in the world of content, it's like being able to deliver a really interesting message in a very sharp way in like a few seconds over a video. But I actually think that TikTok and Instagram might be the dominant players today, but I think there's going to be so many more in the future, and that have like short form video as like a key metric for like how you actually grow there. I mean, LinkedIn just announced the video thing, and I'm sure like a lot of other products are thinking about it. So I do believe that, with that saturation of content and also your inability to guarantee your reach on a platform or like who sees it and when and how many see it, I do have this like big bet towards newsletters and this idea of like owned audiences, because the idea of having an email, I don't think that concept is ever going to change. And there is this idea, because it's owned, you can guarantee who sees it when and can ensure that your message is getting across to them. And then imagine now you have made a video on this platform that's new, or like you made a video on this platform that's not really getting the reach. Well, guess what? You can drop it in your newsletter and you can now be in control of like who sees that and like who it reaches.
I have an additional follow-up question to this, which is, what are your thoughts on traditional businesses and whether or not they should be on social media? Like, should a B2B SaaS business be creating short-form content on TikTok or Instagram, or only media businesses should, and maybe more traditional content channels will work for them? Do you think short-form is for everyone, or no, it only applies for certain businesses, and if so, which type of businesses?
I think today, no. I think if you're like a B2B company, you should be heavily targeted to your customer and actually putting in the work to sell to them and convince them. That could be going to conferences, meeting people, emails, things like that. I think that's going to change actually in the future. I can't say exactly, but what I would predict is that as AI becomes more advanced and software actually becomes commoditized, if you have a really good idea, well, why can't I copy it in 3 seconds with the tools and resources that I'm going to have available to me? So what is the difference between your company and my company? Reality is there is no difference. The person who's going to win is the one who can reach the most people and command the most attention and awareness around it. So the person with the biggest audience, the highest distribution, is going to win at the end of the day. And I do think right now that world is only true for consumer, but I do think it's going to change to B2B in the future.
Gotcha. So if I understand there, AI, other tools make it easier to build the product, so then just the distribution wins. And if you've built the distribution, today maybe it helps for more consumers, but that same product differentiation won't matter as much if you have the same product but more reach in the future.
And I will add one thing. Right now, I don't know how many businesses are in the world, but it's only going to like 100x in the next 10 years because it's getting easier to start a business and there's more solopreneurs than ever before, especially as AI becomes advanced. There's going to be so many more businesses that just one person can do. Plus, like, this idea of like having one big giant company being a monopoly over the whole industry is going to change as well with more access to tools and resources. So I see that like we're going to have a world where like every second person is going to be a business owner. And then what is B2B at that point? Is that like half the world? Like, that's a lot.
I have a couple personal questions I want to ask. The first is, I like to ask the hot take question or the contrarian question. What important truth do very people agree with you on. This could be something that's started debates, something which I probably don't want to say this because it's going to rile people up. I'm going to say it anyway. So what important truths do you very people agree with you on? What's your hot take?
Whoever cares the most wins. I think no amount of wealth, status, or network can beat someone who is genuinely going to die trying. And I truly think you can beat any competition in the world if you're willing to be the last one standing. I have used this philosophy in everything I've ever done in life, and it's 100% foolproof. There's nothing I've tried to go for and I haven't gotten. So I really believe in this. I think the hard part here is, what do I actually care about enough that I'm like willing to indefinitely stand by it? But I think the truth is it's actually within everyone. And if you just listen to yourself, it can be extremely obvious. The true challenge here is, are you willing to admit to yourself what that actually is? Are you willing to commit to it? And are you willing to do what it takes to actually get there?
I love that. I was maybe actually a bit skeptical about that, where people would sometimes say, I can warp the world around me. But then I heard this line from Mark Andreessen where he said, the world's more malleable than you think. And it just takes, I think, kind of what you said, outlasting people and just extreme focus. And kind of, whether it's the world bending around you or people just being like, holy crap, like that person's doing a thing and I'm going to get with it. There's definitely something to that there. I hear you talk and you sound very driven, and these goals, I think, come from somewhere. Who's your role model? Who do you get inspiration from? And then I actually want to know, who are you trying to be a role model for? But let's start with, who is your role model? Who's a person or someone you saw and you said, hey, I kind of want to be like that?
Oh my God, why is everything I say so controversial? I think honestly, Alex Cooper. And this isn't something that 6 months ago I would have been able to say online on the internet. And I think it's like very taboo to say it's like someone like that is my role model. But I know a lot of girls listening to this are like, oh wait, me too. She's really cool. I think like the biggest reason is she has been able to use her voice to command billions of people's attention. And I think storytelling and words are like the most powerful thing in the world. And no offense to Alice Cooper, but what is she talking about of substance here? And she has so much power. And I think that's so phenomenal. And so I'm like, well, if I can even do a 10th of that, but for things that I'm really passionate about, that I'm actually interested in seeing the world change for, like that would just be the most incredible thing.
I do think it's important to have role models. Otherwise, you don't know what is possible unless you see someone maybe like you or similar to you, that, or someone who says something that resonates with just the way you say it. As you're building your presence, you're building the reach yourself personally. Who are you trying to reach? Or maybe you can't even decide who is tending to flock to you and say, hey, your message resonates.
Women who want to reach and redefine the top 1%. And I think that right now it kind of feels like I'm targeting entrepreneurs. But I think the biggest reason is you can be entrepreneur in so many ways. It's really this decision of I want to have autonomy over my life and how I live it. And I think that is like the goal that I'm trying to achieve with my message. And women who are interested in learning how to unlock that are the people I'm targeting.
I asked you about a morning routine question to start things off, but I want to ask a little more because I personally geek out on this. Can you walk through what the first hour of your day typically looks like? So you get up, you're sending some DMs, you're reaching out, shooting your shot there. What happens after that?
Yes. I will also add one thing is I don't have an alarm. I don't believe in alarms. And I will quite literally not schedule a meeting before 1 p.m. at the random situation that I just like don't wake up for it. And I think the biggest reason is because like sleep is the single most biggest ingredient for unlocking your creativity and productivity. And you can literally go weeks not rested and get less done than just one day of being well rested. And for me, I would like to unlock that productivity every single day of my life. And the truth is, I actually have no idea how much sleep I need. My body knows. I'm going to let it decide. Also, like for women just need more sleep on average. I will often give myself 9 hours of sleep. Our bodies are just different from men, and like our bodies have different needs. And so I want to make sure that I'm recovering so that I can wake up in the morning and like seize the day. But I'll say one more thing that I do is I always go on a 1 to 2 hour walk before I start my day. I think it's a really good way for me to guarantee some activity in case the whole day goes wacko, which is pretty much almost every single day. I think the other thing is it really gives my mind an opportunity to rest and recharge and really think critically and intentionally about my day. So I'll often spend this like 1 to 2 hours, actually a very long time. I will spend that time like critically reflecting on my day before and thinking about like what is that one thing I want to achieve today. And I really don't believe in this concept of a to-do list. I don't have a to-do list. If any, like, I will write some things down on a to-do list, but I will never look at it, because I do think like things that go on your to-do list actually don't get you anywhere in life. You can do like 15,000 tasks, but is it actually contributing to your one thing that's going to move the needle on your life? And usually there's only very specific things that you actually need to do to significantly move this needle on your life. And so what I'll do instead is I'll spend that time on my walk thinking about, okay, what is my one goal today? It could be like, today I just want one video to go viral, and I'll literally spend 10 hours if it takes to make this one video go viral. Or it could be like, today I want to write the best email of my life that it's going to unlock a 6-figure customer. I don't know. And yeah, it'll be these ridiculous small tasks, but then when I basically define it for myself as a goal, it ends up being that I allow myself the 6-7 hours, sounds like a ridiculous time to write an email or make a video. But then that email or that video actually becomes life-changing, because I've given myself all this time to focus and be creative in the space and time you need to actually do something exceptional. Like, you can't get exceptional work done and like time pressure and like stress and on a to-do list.
Wait, when you go on these walks, do you do podcast music, or you're just walking, no distractions, just walking?
I will sometimes do music,
okay,
but mostly nothing. And this is why I'm obsessed with cities, because I really just like walking through a city and like letting life pass by me, and subconsciously like people watching and observing the world while I'm like ruminating in my thoughts, and allowing that to be my like distraction or what's I'm listening to per se.
A couple last personal questions just to learn more about you. Then I want to finish up with a last piece of advice question. Do you drink caffeine? And if so, how do you drink your coffee?
I don't drink coffee or any sort of caffeine. And I love matcha, which I know is supposed to be caffeine, but that does nothing to me. I literally do it for like taste. Yeah.
What is your favorite pizza place in New York?
Oh my goodness. I hate to say it, but Prince Street probably. And then it used to be Sauce Pizza, but I think they went out of business. Is that true?
I don't know. I go with Joe's Pizza, so I don't know any
Oh my God, you go to Joe's? Oh my God, I'm embarrassed for you.
Joe's it is for me. Shout out Joe's. And could you tell me about, I'd like to think there's these types of moments, but especially books could be anything, these earthquake type books where you read it and life's just not the same after. Do you have a book or a movie, but something that you read it or watched and after life just wasn't the same, it just hit different at that point?
Yeah, The Defining Decade. And I think the reason why I say this book, I actually read this like literally when I hit 20. So I read it a long time ago. And I think something about this book really hit for me. And I think this is true because I'm a woman. There's these 3 chapters, and there's like one on career and there's one on health. And I think the topics in those sections, I was like, yep, got it. Like, yeah, I care about my career. Like, I care about my health. I already feel bought in. And then there was this chapter on relationship, and it really hit the nail on how like your life partner is really someone who can alter the entire trajectory of your life and how this person can fully shape you. But more importantly, as a woman who like probably wants a family one day and like wants children, that world is gonna completely be altered depending upon how this partner supports me, especially as an ambitious career woman. And the reality is, doesn't really matter how much my partner supports me, because if I want to be present and available for my children, and if I want to care about that, and I do, there is some aspect of time that's going to be removed from my life that is going to change my career. And I think it gave me this like drive and motivation to super hustle before I get to that family era of my life. Not that I think that having a family is going to stop my career or anything, but I think that it made me realize that for careers, there hits this tipping point for everyone where they reach some sort of like monumental success where they can kind of like ride through that success and like let that momentum flow for them. And it's much easier for them to like up level and like hit new milestones. For men, I think they have this flexibility to achieve that at any point in their life. But I think for women, if we don't hit our tipping point before we have children, we actually might never. And so I'm really rushing, like chasing this tipping point that I can get before I want to start a family. So when I do start a family, I'm just like riding out the momentum of my success without sacrificing those traditional things that many mothers have had to when they have children.
That's one, I appreciate your candor there. With something that, as you're describing that, what I'm hearing is like whether you're tricking yourself into doing it, like creating a false dichotomy that might not be the case, or maybe it is, you're front loading and like, how do I go now? How do I focus, do the biggest things now? And then once you have that base, you're going to get the passive gains. It's kind of like if you save money more aggressively now, you get more returns on the bigger base. Or if you invest in your health now, then it's easier to maintain going forward. So like, I love that idea of just front loading with focus, and then you'll get more gains in the future. And ideally, if you like what you're doing too, then it doesn't feel as much like work too. So you get the win-win-win trifecta there.
Totally. It's similar to your asymmetric upside concept.
2 last questions. Something I heard you say is the only monopoly you have in the world is being uniquely yourself. What does that mean?
There's only one of you. And the only way to like actually stand out and be unique is to be yourself. That's the only thing that's going to be most sustainable. It's super easy to like wake up and be super authentic. It's very hard to be a different character or like push yourself to do something that is not truly you. And going back to the premise of what I said earlier, which is the last one standing wins. Whoever cares the most wins. Well, it's going to be really easy to be the last one standing if you're just being yourself. And so then you're going to win.
Love it. Outlast people. Last question. And before I ask this question, this is something that I heard and it really resonated with me, where someone asked, you know, I don't really want to create content, or I don't feel like creating content. And then this person said, you know what, I'm going to post content because one day I will want to personally, selfishly look back and see what I was doing at this time. And then the second thing they said, which I really liked, was my grandkids, they're probably going to want to know who I was, and maybe grandkids. So very selfishly, again, I want to watch this. And then my future grandkids, they'll probably want to know what I was doing at this point too. So even if no one else watches this, but those 2 people or 10 people, whatever it is, there's value here. And I was like, that's kind of cool. Like that removes everything else on why you're doing this. Like, hey, I'm going to create this personal record for myself and then my future generations of people. So that's a preface for us to get to where we are today. If we take us, then our parents and our parents' parents, 2 to the 2nd to the 3rd power, all the way up to the 12th, you get over 4,000 ancestors that were here and went through so much in their own unique journeys to create us, and we are here today. So what I want to say now is let's pretend we go forward 12 generations, and cool thing about content, for better or for worse, is it will exist forever. So 12 generations from now, someone's watching this video, they're listening to you. What would you want them to know?
I would like them to remember that I genuinely improved the lives of half the world, women. I grew up in Silicon Valley, and technology was something that I was exposed to from a very young age, and I saw the significant impact it had. And I really wanted to be a part of that. However, when I finally got there, I noticed so starkly the vast gap in gender inclusivity across leadership and just tech in general. And I really struggled with that because I was noticing how this was actually causing significant challenges for women around the world: wealth disparity, power imbalances, and most importantly, lack of representation. So now you have the biggest companies and products being built without women's needs in mind. So now we have this huge gap where technology is not actually unlocking the potential of how it can improve women's lives, especially as it has to do with women's health. And so for me, I really want to basically change that. I realized that the reason why I had so much interest in technology and also the capability to get there pretty fast was because I was exposed to a lot of this early. And so it kind of is what's driven my purpose, is to raise awareness on this issue, but more importantly, actually educate and empower young women to understand and be prepared so that we can build a future world where it is actually equal, where women's lives are better. And I would like to be known for that.
I love it. What a way to finish. That is quite a way to leave a dent on the universe, but I think we all want to have some meaning.
Totally.
Thank you so much for coming on.
Thank you.